Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where...
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like...
Fucker! You fucker! Fucker!
Oh! Huh? What the f...
Hello again, everyone. This is Bionic Slime. I'm your online voice for reviews of your choice, and this is another installment of BS Reviews. Thank you all for tuning in. Today, I'll be reviewing a personal favorite anime series of mine, and a classic at that. I'll be reviewing the anime series Slayers. Slayers is brought to you by Funimation Studios and was directed by Takashi Watanabe. It stars the vocal talents of Lisa Ortiz as Lena Inverse, Eric Stuart as Gowry Gabriev, Crispen Freeman as Zelgadis Greywords, Veronica Taylor as Amelia Will Tesla Seroon, Charles Rolfe as Rezo the Red Priest, Stacia Crawford as Silphiel, and Ted Lewis as Zangulus. The plot of Slayers. Slayers takes place in a fictional land that is populated primarily by swords and sorcery, and is a comedic, adventurous anime that follows the comedic and adventurous Sorcerer Supreme Lena Inverse, a short-statured, short-tempered, and short-breasted sorceress who is constantly viewed as a child, but is actually one of the strongest sorcerers in the world, and time again she proves it in this show. She comes across an incredibly talented, incredibly dim swordsman known as Gowry Gabriev. And upon meeting him, they get caught up in this little scheme involving an Ori Halcon statue that is tied to two very mysterious figures. A part man, part golem, part demon creature known as Zelgadis, and a blind, mysterious priest who claims himself to be Rezo, the Red Priest. Both of them want the statue, and both of them are claiming that the other is trying to do something dark and horrible with it, and so Lena and Gowry end up on a crazy adventure along with Zelgadis, including other characters such as a crazy, justice-loving princess known as Amelia from a place called Seroon, bounty hunters, werewolves, monsters, mummy men, all on this crazy adventure that is Slayers. Review of the plot. Slayers is a complicated story to review in terms of plot because there are so many plots actually going on. Even though the series is only 26 episodes long, there's almost like 2, 3, or even 4 kind of different storylines already mixed in. Some are about 6 or 7 episodes long, some are only about 2 episodes long, but they manage to mix all these different conflicting storylines in with the characters, and they just make it on one big journey. And that's one of the things I've always admired in Slayers, is that because it's such an epic universe in terms of the really large-ass amount of characters they have on the show, it's great that they have a chance to mix so many wide and variety of different storylines into the show. Even though it's only 26 episodes long, they still manage to keep things constantly fresh, and it's not relying on the one simple storyline. The initial storyline, however, I think is definitely quite an original one in terms of this whole plot going with this mysterious priest Rezo, and talks about Rezo as this creature, this dark lord known as Shapernigdo, is pretty much the Satan of this anime's universe. And it's an interesting idea because I've seen all of Slayers before, except for the new ones, the Revolution that's coming out in Japan, but this thing with this creature Shapernigdo, he's so incredibly terrifying evil. There is no figure really in the other Slayers universe who truly has matched the epicness of this character, and they brought him right frickin' dab in the very beginning of the storyline of the first series. I thought that was actually really ballsy, and I was really impressed that a series could take the initiative and bring bring the trump card out right when you're very started, and yet still manage to keep things interesting even though you've already used your top character plotline in the very beginning. Review the characters. This is by far where I think everyone would agree with me on this, but Slayers absolutely shines. There is nothing I love more than a great cast of characters, because as I always say, you can have the greatest storyline in the world, but if you don't give a shit about who you're watching, then you're not going to watch the show. Slayers shines magnificently because of its characters. It's the strongest point of this show. It always has been, and it always will be. There's such a great variety of comical characters here who have very unique, distinctive personalities, traits, jobs, professions, and powers that make them all so unique, so interesting, and so much fun to mix with. Lena Inverse is probably one of the best anime characters ever created. She has such instant recognition and fame with her name, her infamous running joke with her small breasts and her just fiery pain-in-the-ass brat attitude. She just makes it work so well. Lisa Ortiz does a great job. She makes her funny, she makes her compelling, and she makes her a great character, and she just goes brilliantly well with Eric Stewart as Gary Gabriev. Eric Stewart is best known as Brock on Pokemon and Kaiba on Yu-Gi-Oh! But in here, he gives a nice mix of both silly and yet serious at the same time, because Gowry tends to do that because he is a pretty dim character. And that's kind of what happens with it, is that these voice actors really flesh these characters' personalities up so much better. And you got some other great people. You got Veronica Taylor as Amelia, Crispen Freeman, who I love as Delgadis. Ted Lewis is very funny and Zangulis, and you get a lot of wide range of characters, because the strength of Slayer, as I said, is its characters. There are so many different people who exist in this universe that you got to keep up with all these different traits and personalities by having a strong vocal cast, and that's one thing where Slayer shines. The jokes that they pun off each other, particularly on Crispen Freeman's delivery and some of the dull, dry wit lines from Zelgadis, they all work so well, and they make it so much funnier than needs be, and than actually is, I should say. And it's just, I didn't expect such talented humor and vocal talent to really come out of this show when I first saw it. Review the animation, the music. Music's really not much in terms of the actual show. In terms of Slayers in general, like the opening and ending, there's some brilliantly beautiful music. It's done by Megumi Hayashirabara, who's a famous Japanese pop singer, who also does Lena's voice in Japan. She also does Catgirl Nuku Nuku's opening, endings, and plays Nuku Nuku, since I heard that it's pretty common in Japan for the girls or people who sing the opening songs also sing voices for the main characters. And it's not much to brag about in the series. Some music's good. It's kind of repeated a lot, but it's not a big deal. Animation's very nice. It's very brightly colored. It's definitely an older series. You can tell by the distinctive style of the animation. But it doesn't look too shoddy, because the colors are still very vibrant. You got some nice animation with the battle sequences, particularly later on when they start getting more like Lena's flare arrows. They look much more beautifully animated later on. And you got Gowry's bitchin' Sword of Light that just has an excellent animation sequence when it comes out. The animation is really done very well with these characters, with the designs of the monsters and the characters, so I was really impressed with that. And again, it's one of the things that makes Slayer so great, is the way they design their characters. They have very distinctive, unique, personal looks, and I really admire them for doing that. Flaws by the Slayers. Slayers have been struggling with some dubbing issues, because there's a lot of technical shit that kind of bothered me in this film, or series, I should say. Because, well, one thing I should mention is, for some really retarded reason, they ended up having two different voice actors for two different characters. Amelia was originally voiced by another person, by a girl named Joni Baker, for like 2 episodes or so, and then all of a sudden she changes from Veronica Taylor. It's good because I like Veronica Taylor better, but this looks kind of bad in terms of show quality. Same thing with Zelgadis. He was only secondly voiced by Crispen Freeman, and initially he was voiced by a guy they couldn't get a hold of after the first time, a guy named Daniel Cronin. They said that they couldn't find him after he did the first set of episodes of Delgadis, and it worked out better in the long run, but that just looks kind of sloppy in terms of the editing thing. Plus, some of the voice actors kind of half-assed their roles in terms of the secondary characters, such as Charles Rolfe as Rezo the Red Priest, and Daniel Cronin as the first Delgadis, because a lot of them talked very soft-spoken, and you had to frickin' crank the volume up to the max just to hear them sometimes, and I didn't like that. They did it similar with a wizard character named Verumagan, and I was just upset that they did that, because it was kind of annoying. And another problem is that this is definitely an older anime, you can tell, because they tend to reuse some of the same sound effects over and over again, like there are monsters and trolls and ogres, and the same growling sound effects are heard multiple times. And even if you're not someone who has a good ear for these kind of things, the average person can easily spot that this sound effect has been reused multiple times. And unfortunately, again, I don't blame the show for that, but I do blame the fact that it just makes the dubbing and the audio look kind of more shoddy for that, and it's unfortunate. Final wrap-up. Slayers is an excellent series despite the fact that it is flawed. It's unfortunate that this show had such conflicting problems with their voice actors, why two people were voicing for two different characters and then they changed it. It looks weird. The sound effects that they were using for the trolls and the monsters was kind of annoying, and I felt some of the voice actors really needed to speak up a little more because you really couldn't hear them part-time. But overall, Slayers is a really, really fun show. It's great. It's very iconic, very memorable. It's got great voice casting overall, got good opening and ending music, a nice mix of variety of storylines, beautiful cast of characters, perfect top-notch cast of characters. This is a show that grabs your attention and is funny as hell and interesting as hell, and there's a good damn reason why it's that high up on the classic list, because this is a classic anime series that I think everyone gets some a little bit of enjoyment out of. I give Slayers, the first season, 3 stars and a half out of 5. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye for now.